The United States faces a growing economic concern. Its national debt has soared past $34 trillion. This is a very large number. Mounting deficits continue to add to this burden. People are worried about the future. The cost of borrowing for the government is also rising. This makes the problem even harder to solve. It's a situation that demands careful attention from policymakers. The implications could be significant for everyone. Confidence in U.S. Treasury bonds is a cornerstone of the global financial system. These bonds have long been seen as a very safe investment. However, the increasing debt levels are causing some to question this. The world watches America's fiscal decisions closely. If confidence erodes, it could have serious consequences. This is not just an American problem. It affects international markets and global economic stability. The path forward requires responsible fiscal management. Beyond the debt itself, broader bond market uncertainty is palpable. Inflation fears have been a major driver of this. For a while, inflation seemed to be a distant memory. Now, it is back, and central banks are fighting it. The Federal Reserve, America's central bank, has responded. It has raised interest rates multiple times. This is a standard tool to cool down an overheating economy and control rising prices. These interest rate hikes have consequences. They make borrowing more expensive across the entire economy. This affects businesses, consumers, and the government. Investors are becoming more nervous. They are unsure about the future direction of interest rates and bond values. The perceived safety of bonds is being re-evaluated. This uncertainty contributes to volatility in financial markets globally. It's a tricky environment for everyone involved. Japan plays a surprisingly significant role in this complex picture. It is one of the largest foreign holders of U.S. debt. This means Japan owns a lot of U.S. Treasury bonds. Therefore, decisions made in Tokyo can impact American finances. This financial link between the two nations is very important. Japan's investment helps to fund the U.S. government's borrowing needs. This interconnection is a key feature of the modern global economy. The Bank of Japan, Japan's central bank, has maintained an unusual policy for many years. It has kept its key interest rates at ultra-low levels. In some cases, rates were even negative. This policy was designed to combat deflation. Japan struggled with falling prices for a long time. The goal was to encourage borrowing and spending to stimulate economic growth. This unique monetary stance has had wide-ranging global effects. This difference in interest rates between Japan and other countries created an opportunity. It led to a popular financial strategy known as the yen carry trade. Here's how it works. Investors borrow money in yen. Because Japanese interest rates are so low, borrowing is very cheap. They then take this borrowed yen and convert it. They invest it in assets in countries with higher interest rates like the United States. The yen carry trade has provided consistent support for the U.S. bond market. The demand for U.S. Treasury bonds from these carry trade activities is substantial. This helps to keep U.S. borrowing costs lower than they might otherwise be. It effectively mitigates some of the upward pressure on interest rates caused by U.S. deficits. Japan's policy, therefore, indirectly helps manage America's borrowing costs. It is a subtle but powerful influence. However, Japan is now facing its own set of economic challenges. The Japanese yen has weakened considerably against other major currencies. A weaker yen makes imports much more expensive for Japan. This is a problem because Japan relies heavily on imports. It imports a large portion of its energy, food, and raw materials. These rising import costs are now being felt throughout the Japanese economy. The higher cost of imports is leading to a new problem for Japan: domestic inflation. For decades, Japan fought deflation or falling prices. Now it sees prices rising. Some inflation can be good for an economy trying to escape deflation, but if inflation rises too quickly, it erodes purchasing power. It hurts consumers, especially if wages do not increase at the same pace. This is the current predicament for many Japanese households. This situation is putting significant pressure on the Bank of Japan. There are growing calls for it to abandon its ultra-low interest rate policy. Raising interest rates could help to strengthen the yen. A stronger yen would make imports cheaper. This could help to control domestic inflation. However, such a policy shift is not without its own serious risks. It would mark a major turning point for Japan's economy. Japan has one of the highest debt-to-GDP ratios in the world. Its government debt is enormous compared to the size of its economy. If the Bank of Japan raises interest rates, the government's cost of servicing this debt will increase significantly. This could potentially trigger a fiscal crisis in Japan. Policymakers face a very difficult balancing act. They must weigh the risks of inflation against the risks of higher borrowing costs. If Japan does decide to raise its interest rates, the global impact could be substantial. One major consequence could be the unwinding of the yen carry trade. If Japanese interest rates rise, borrowing yen becomes less attractive. Investors might close their carry trade positions. This means they would sell the foreign assets they bought. They would then convert the money back into yen to repay their loans. This unwinding process could have a significant effect on U.S. bond prices. If carry traders sell their U.S. Treasury bonds, it increases the supply of these bonds on the market. An increased supply generally leads to lower prices for bonds. When bond prices fall, their yields or interest rates rise. This would make U.S. government borrowing more expensive. It could also push up other interest rates in the U.S. like mortgage rates. These potential developments highlight the profound interconnectedness of global economies. A monetary policy decision made in Tokyo can directly influence financial conditions in Washington and New York. It can affect individuals and businesses around the world. No major economy operates in a vacuum. We are all linked through intricate webs of trade, investment, and financial flows. This interdependence has benefits but also carries risks. The coming months and years will be telling. The coordination or lack thereof of economic policies among major powers will be crucial. If countries work together, they might navigate these challenges more smoothly. If their policies collide, it could create financial instability and economic turbulence. The path taken by nations like the US and Japan will significantly shape the global financial landscape. Wise and cooperative policymaking is more important than ever.